Welcome to Mission Majjhima. Ajahn. So Ajahn, tell us about Majjhima Nikaya 21, the Kakacūpama Sutta, Simile of the Saw.
So the Simile of the Saw is one of my favorite suttas in the whole canon. And it's actually one which is, most people believe, one of the oldest suttas in the canon because it's actually referenced in other suttas. Monks will say later on that one should recollect the teaching, the Simile of the Saw, so as to counteract impatience in their own mind. So that's the main theme of this sutta is training, active training in utter nonviolence, in kind of radical patience. So here we first meet a monk named Mulya Paguna, who's associating overmuch, too much with the bhikkhunis. The matter is brought to the Buddha, and the Buddha summons Mulya, and his response, his rebuke to Mulya, is to give several similes and then to give several ways that the Mulya can specifically train his own mind. The Buddha says, even if someone were to speak badly about this bhikkhunis, you should train yourself. My mind will be unaffected, and I will utter no evil words. I will abide compassionate for their welfare with a mind of loving kindness, without inner hate. Even if someone were to physically attack the bhikkhunis, or physically attack him, or increasing levels of violence, Mulya should always train himself actively this inner affirmation that he'll train in having compassion for this person with a mind of love and kindness without inner hate. So then the Buddha gives several similes for how we can respond to different courses of speech. The Buddha gives 5 different courses of speech. On the positive side, we've got speaking beneficially, speaking words which are accurate, speaking words which are gentle, speaking words which are expedient or timely, and spoken with loving kindness. That's the bagel. And the opposite side of that is the donut, words which are deleterious, are obviously false, are noxious as opposed to gentle, are untimely as opposed to expedient, and are treacherous as opposed to spoken with loving kindness. So nice acronym that way. Go with the bagel, abstain from the donut. And regardless of how someone relates to us, then we can train in a heart of loving kindness, like the earth. The Buddha says, just as someone might dig up the earth, so we can, but the earth doesn't complain, so too we can train to have a mind that's like the earth, or like the sky, or like the Ganges River, or like a cat skin bag, or even if we were to be cut up, sawed limb from limb by bandits. The Buddha says anyone who gives rise to a mind of hate or animosity, ill will towards that person wouldn't be practicing his teaching. And the Buddha concludes by saying that this is a teaching which everyone should remember so that we can always be patient and respond with loving kindness rather than ill will towards people. So what are the salient aspects of this sutta for you, Ajahn? What really sticks for you?
I mean, it's the Buddhist standards in stark, beautiful and compassionate clarity. You know, there's a story of the BBC program they did with a bunch of religious leaders, and the Dalai Lama, I think, was the only one who said there's never a place for anger. And it's so clearly laid out here that, we have this graduated scale of ill treatment, first harsh words towards another, in this case the bhikkhunis, then physical ill treatment, and then of oneself, and then, as you noted, even up to being severed limb from limb by a 2-handled saw by bandits. And in each case, I think that beautiful phrase at the end, those among you who gave rise to a mind of ill will would not be doing my bidding. And to know that that is the standard. And there's another wonderful, and it's just so compassionate because it gets rid of any kind of wriggling around some idea that anger is ever justified. It's not that you have to let bandits sever you limb from limb or allow, another to be assaulted, but the heart is its own, sanctuary in terms of practice. And I think one other sutta to reference in connection with this one is the Punavada Sutta, Majjhima Nikaya 145, which is the other most famous example of this graduated scale of ill treatment. So there's a monk, Venerable Puna, who wants to go teach the people of Sunaparanta. And the Buddha says, they are rough, these people of Sunaparanta. Puna, are you ready? What if they speak harsh words? And Venerable Puna says, I'll think how grateful I am that they're not hitting me with clods or fists. And the Buddha says, what if they hit you with fists? And he says, I will think how grateful I am that they're not hitting me with sticks, etc. Until what if they take a knife to you? And Venerable Puna says, I will think some people disgusted with this life have to seek out an assassin. They've found a way to I don't have to do that. And the Buddha says, you are ready. And not to say suicide is ever justified in the Buddhist teaching, but the standard is there. And the clarity of the simile is very intentional, I think. So, Ajahn, what else would you draw out of this?
Maybe a couple of things. One thing I didn't mention in the summary is this great sutta, this great story of Videhika, this woman who's got a great reputation, a wealthy woman, and her servant Kali. So Kali does a good job, and Videhika, in the beginning of the story, is, just a good employer, and people praise Videhika for her patience and her humility and her easy to speak to-edness. But then Kali thinks, is Videhika really easy to speak to, or is she just, because she's well supported and whatnot? So Kali ends up staying up later and waking up later and not doing her chores, and Videhika ends up gradually, as Kali does a worse and worse job, Videhika eventually scolds her and then ends up hitting her with a rolling pin. And then Kali spreads it about, look, Madam Videhika is not as gentle. You would think she's gentle and you think she's meek, but really she's coarse. And the Buddha gives, extrapolating from that, this principle that he doesn't say that people are easy to speak to, this suvacha, which we mentioned in Majjhima number 15, this quality of being easy to speak to. I don't praise someone as being easy to speak to because they get requisites of life, nice robes, nice lodging, nice food, medicines, etc., but because they honor, respect, and revere the teachings, the Dhamma. So the Buddha says, you should train yourself. Another of this way that you can prime yourself by training this. I will be easy to admonish and make myself easy to admonish because out of respect, honor, and love for the Dhamma. So is there anything else, Ajahn, that you'd be interested to draw out, or how you use this sutta?
Like you noted, the list of courses of speech just being so clearly laid out, like these are the iterations, and it's just that much, true, false, timely, untimely, bagel, donut. And so that's just, it takes away all the valence, that clarity, I feel like, or it really helps just make it that much. And then the analogies the Buddha brings in for how one should receive that by making oneself like the earth, deep, immeasurable, and then like the Ganges River, where one tries to boil the river, but it can't be boiled because of that depth of water. Sky, spacious, where one tries to paint words on the sky, but there's nothing for it to land on. And then the catskin bag, where, sorry for the vegans among us and those of us with compassion for cats, but this idea that it's silent, and that also, interestingly, it got there to being silent by being well, the skin being well beaten and well kind of prepared that way, in the sense that when we receive speech like this, in some sense, we are becoming softer and softer if we receive it correctly. Like that's how the catskin bag becomes well treated. So just beautiful. And to note the connection between the elements and equanimity that comes up here and in the Buddhist teachings to Rahula around how to receive feedback, and in Majjhima Nikaya 28, there's this connection where the elements really, which these are adjacent to, really allow those words to kind of land, I think, and dissipate in a powerful way. So what is the word of the week, Ajahn?
So the word of the week is metta. So metta is a word which many people know. It's Buddhist hybrid English by now, and just means loving kindness, back formation from the noun metta, or friendship. So I hope everybody can learn this word, metta, loving kindness, metta bhavana, meditation on loving kindness, and memorize that word.
And mitta too, because that's a good one.
Metta, it's a good one.